to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And man, you thought Miami was bad. How about Wednesday night's game against Cincinnati? You go down 3 times and you crawl your way back just to lose it in the 100th minute. I mean, how are Union fans surviving? How are you guys surviving? Just watching this team take you through so many different emotions, and it's a crazy roller coaster ride. And maybe the one last bit of hope that you had to hold on to was, well, at least the Union are still undefeated on the road. Well, they are no longer undefeated after losing to FC Cincinnati by a score of 4-3. The team cannot get a home win back at home this Saturday against Charlotte, who squeaked out a 2-2 draw on Wednesday night against Orlando City. But man, it's been difficult. It has been difficult for Union fans. It's been difficult for people who cover this team. And I was talking to Jose Nunez the other day, surprise, surprise. And I was like, it's getting difficult, man. Like, how do you come up with questions? Like, what more can Jim Curtin be asked? Because I feel like every press conference, it's the same questions, the same answers. And I do feel bad for Jim because it's like he doesn't have the answers. What more do you want him to say? And it's like he can only say sorry to the fans, to you guys, so many times. And then, it doesn't matter how many times, the results still stay the same. The Union have 1 win in their last 12 matches. And it's a difficult season. And it's one where it's so hard for me to wrap my head around. Where you look, it's a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes by the Union. And shout out to Mike Barrera, Jose Nunez, Chuck Booth, Kyle Angeli, and Almany. We did a live reaction podcast on the AAT Sports YouTube page after the Cincinnati game. And that was a lot of fun. If you guys didn't check that out, I'll leave a link in the show description so you guys can go and check that out after you listen to this podcast. But yeah, I mean, we gave, our thoughts right after the game and try to dissect what we have just watched. And yeah, it was difficult. It was really, really difficult. And I lost my train of thought. And, normally I'd pause the podcast and try to go back, but we're trying to have one clean take throughout this whole podcast. But just watching this team struggle, watching Jim Curtin be lost for words, it's tough. And you don't know how it's going to get better. But we'll go ahead and see. And now I'm distracted because while I'm recording the podcast, I just got it's not a copyright strike. It says, this is not a copyright strike for my goals breakdown video. Spent a while trying to break down all 7 goals. It came out to be about a 19-minute video. And it says, no one can view this video due to one or more content ID claims below. And it's such a joke because I've experienced this before. And it's like, I'm not doing anything different than what I normally do in my videos. So I guess I'll have to go and cut out the section that YouTube wants me to cut out. So if you guys want to watch the full video, then check it out on Substack, because Substack won't make me delete the whole video or delete section. So thefreekick.substack.com. I mean, what a joke, man. Come on. And it seems to happen all the time when I do long videos, but it's not my fault that there was 7 goals scored in this game. But what a joke, man. What a joke. Just like the Union's defense. But again, getting distracted once again. You, I don't know. It's like you lose things to talk about with this team, whether you're Jim Curtin, whether you're people in the media, whether you're fans of the club, and yeah, it's just so disheartening right now. And so we have 4 clips that I want to play, and I want to definitely not make this episode an hour long. So we'll play the 4 clips, 3 stars, no blunder of the week, no news because it's a midweek episode. So you guys know how we do this. Come Sunday when we record after the Charlotte game on Saturday, then we'll give you guys news, blunder of the week. And yeah, a lot of people said, Semla getting chipped should definitely be blunder of the week. And I agree. That's a very, very strong contender for blunder of the week. And I mentioned it, so we might as well bring it up. But you can't be getting chipped by 50 yards. It's not good. It's not good. After the Union try to break, they turn Cincinnati over in the Union's defensive half of the field. And Jack McGlynn plays the ball out to Mikal Ua. Mikal Ua's being defended by Nick Hagelin. It's good defense by Nick Hagelin. And Ua eventually is able to get the cross into Tai Baribo, and Cincinnati clear it. And then they get the ball out wide on the left-hand side of the field to Orsano, and sees that Zemla's out of his goal. And you get the camera angle behind the net, and you see Semla just backpedaling. And anytime a goalkeeper is backpedaling, issues are going to happen. That can only mean bad news. And that's exactly what happened. After the Union had fought the way back, getting the game-tying goal with Jesus Bueno, then Luca Orsano chips Oliver Zemla. And Semla didn't have a great night at all in net for the Union. Only 1 save on the night. And maybe this game shouldn't have been as close as it was. I mean, there was a point where Cincinnati's up 3-2 before Tai Baribo scores his second goal of the match. And we'll talk about Tai here in a second. But Sergio Santos had like 2 chances and really, really late in this game. And he's not able to get the ball in the back of the net. I believe one of those shots got blocked, if I'm remembering correctly. There was 1 save, Semla saved, and then it was a block in the 89th minute. And that would have put this game to bed, making it 4-2. But instead, Sergio Santos can't finish. And the Union in the 91st minute go in and score with Tai Baribo. But I saw some fans, and I appreciate people trying to find positives in this match, trying to spin it into a whole bunch of positives. But let's not forget that Cincinnati were without their 2 starting center backs in Miles Robinson and Matt Miazga. And so you start Kip Keller and you start Ian Murphy. And Ian Murphy was god-awful for Cincinnati, and he showed why he doesn't play for Cincinnati, or start, I should say. And that's tough if you're a Cincinnati fan, losing your 2 best center backs. Matt Miazga looks to be out for a while with a laceration on his leg. Miles Robinson's away with USA at Copa America, and then there's rumors that he could be one of the overage players for the Olympics. And so you're looking at potentially 2 months missing Miles Robinson. But the offense for Cincinnati on fire. And whether it be Orsano, whether it be Luciano Acosta, whether it be Kelsey, they were all clicking. I thought Kubo was excellent, drew the penalty that Luciano put in the back of the net. And the Union, to their credit, tried. They tried to fight their way back. Marcus Anderson, what can you say about Marcus Anderson? And it's like he got it completely wrong there on the play. He's coming on for, I don't remember who he came on for. He came in the 90th minute. I mean, the Union made so many substitutions towards the end of the game. Did he come in for Tai Baribo? Sounds about right. And again, we'll get to Baribo here in a second. But Marcus Anderson, the Union win the ball back, and Marcus Anderson looks to break the Union on the counterattack. And you see on the right-hand side of the field, Quinn Sullivan with his hands up, screaming for the switch in a lot of space. And Marcus Anderson, and I showed this in the goals breakdown video, and I haven't looked yet to see, what part YouTube wants me to take off of YouTube. I mean, what a joke. I'm still pissed about that. Should be blunder of the week. Come on. Doing you guys a favor. Bringing, eyes to your league. I'll get some videos that say, MLS allows this material on YouTube. Yeah. And it's always something with Apple. It's so weird. It's like not an MLS issue. It's an Apple issue. And yeah, I'll take out whatever section they want me to take out. And like I said, if you guys want to go ahead and watch a full video on Substack, you guys can do that. Obviously, you guys can tell that this has me upset. Sorry, let me stop OCDing over this. The giveaway by Anderson, just so bad. And Alvis Powell defends it well. But then if you go back and look further ahead when Cincinnati is progressing with the ball, it's bad midfield play by Leon Flock, by Jack McGlynn. Olivier Baiza, who started the game as a right wing back, is off the field at this time. And that means Jeremy Raffanello is playing as a right wing back, which is not his natural position, but you still have your other four defenders in Nate Harriel, Glesnes, Elliott, and Wagner. But it comes on the side where Jeremy Raffanello is playing as a right wing back, and this isn't his fault whatsoever. I would put the blame on definitely Leon Flock, Jack McGlynn. Maybe you can say Marcus Anderson for after turning the ball over, didn't hustle back to make a play on the ball. But when you have a player like Luciano Acosta, and I know I've used him as an example in this podcast before, and I definitely used him on AAT Sports across the pitch last night. That's the type of player that the Union need. A player that can take players on 1v1, play those line splitting passes. The player that's so clever knows where the space is on the field, the space that they need to get into. And he does that against the Union. He does so well to make Jack Elliott stab at the ball. And there was a play in the first half, I believe it was, where Jack Elliott gets beat inside the box, but then he recovers and blocks it and sends it out for a corner kick, I want to say it was. But yeah, I mean, that's a player that's playing with a lot of confidence. You see Luciano get the assist. It's terrible defending by the Union. They got caught ball watching way too many times. Nate Harriel, I get it, playing out of position. And he does check over his shoulder first to see where Kelsey is. And then once Luciano does a 1-2 with Kubo, I believe it was, then you get Nate Harriel ball watching. And by the time that he realizes that this ball is played in perfectly to Kelsey, you know he's beat. He knows he's beat. Oliver Zemla, he hesitates. He comes for the ball, then he backpedals back. And you can't have that if you're a goalkeeper. You either commit or you don't. And he gets a hand to it. But the ball still winds up in the back of the net. And I got to imagine if Oliver doesn't hesitate there, do I go? Do I come back? Then maybe he does get a better palm to this header by Kelsey. But it's these small margins. And I think I remember the point I was trying to make like 10 minutes ago, where it is a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes that we're seeing by the Union. It's something simple as ball watching. It's something as simple as, hesitating. Do I come for this ball? Do I not? It's something as simple as tracking the run through the midfield. It's something as simple as a bad pass. And this is so uncharacteristic, or it would be in years past, but maybe this is exactly who the Union are, just giving away careless mistakes. And teams are capitalizing on it. Good teams make you pay. And that's exactly what Cincinnati did on the night. Now I do have to give props to the Union for fighting back 3 times to tie this game. That talks about the motivation these players have. It talks about, the never say never attitude of this team. And that's, that's why fans can get behind them. That's why fans don't have an issue with the players. It's with ownership that fans have an issue with. when the fans are booing, they're not necessarily booing the team. They're booing ownership for not spending, not bringing in better players. But to these guys' credit, they fight back 3 times. 3 times. They get their 11th set piece goal of the season. And we talk about the Union ball watching. You got Bueno ball watching on the corner kick. Ball played in by Kai Wagner, and you have 4 players for the Union running towards the near post. Maybe that throws Bueno off a little bit, and you see Jesus Bueno get goal side and then runs right by Bueno, and he's able to just poke the ball in the back of the net, and it's his first goal of the season. Jesus Bueno's not had a ton of matches this season where he's got starts, not a ton of playing time compared to what he was doing last season in Leagues Cup for the Union. But he takes advantage of one of his lone starts this year. He started 3 times this year for the Union. First goal, like I said, he's played over 200 minutes for the club. But a player that was dominating during Leagues Cup, which earned him more minutes played last year after Leagues Cup, has not had a lot of opportunities this season, but takes advantage of, one of his rare starts with a goal. Defensively, could he have been better? I do think so. But, with this team having so many injuries and so many players away for international duty, people like Tai Baribo, people like Jesus Bueno are going to be given opportunities, and both players scored on the night. And, I think, yes, Jim Curtin's going to continue to pick players that score. But if you're working your tail off the ball, then of course you're going to get selected in the starting 11. And I do think both players did well to work their socks off to try to win the ball back. Both players dispossessed a couple times, but as long as you're not jogging back, as long as you're not walking back after you lose the ball, then you're going to continue to get starts. And it's funny when you look at the bench for the Union. I mean, just so young. David Vasquez, CJ Olney gets his first appearance on the Union's bench after playing with Union 2 all season. Sanders Ngabo, Oluwatu Makanyo, Andrew Rick, Marcus Anderson, Chris Donovan, Quinn Sullivan, Jeremy Raffanello. I mean, that bench obviously doesn't scream scary to anybody here. But all in all, it's disappointing how you lose. And you try 3 times. Not 1, not 2, 3. 3 times the Union come from behind and eventually lose it in the 100th minute. But Tai Baribo, fantastic game, fantastic performance all over the field. Yes, he scored 2 goals, but he did so much more. And this is what Jim Curtin had to say after the game for Tai's performance.
Yeah, excellent. That's not just because of the goals, Jonathan, because of the work rate to be able to run and fight that way until he couldn't run anymore, basically, was very good. He's worked hard to get this start. And now, certainly left a really good impression with the coaches, put it in a great shift, and it will certainly get more playing time. Obviously, when he was behind Julian, it was tough to get minutes. Obviously, Julian's not here anymore. And Tai did his job and really stepped up and scored 2 big goals for us. It's really disappointing, though, because there's been so many gutsy, gritty performances that have come away with us being empty-handed, and that hurts and it weighs on the guys. I'm gutted and I feel terrible for them because it's not a lack of effort. Leon just died on the field for us tonight. The center backs worked their asses off. To not be rewarded with at least a point hurts, but we have to pick ourselves up and go again against Charlotte.
Yeah, and I'm glad Jim mentioned that. I don't know if you guys saw this during the broadcast, but it's around like the 60-ish minute in that they showed that Tai Baribo had covered the most distance on the field. It was something like 4.2 miles, 4.6 miles at that point in the game. He was also the fastest player on the field. And yeah, he worked his tail off defensively to win the ball back, to hold play up. And of course, he scores 2 goals, and that's going to be the headlines is the 2 goals, and deservingly so. But, for a player that's been questioned, not being the best at training, putting in a performance like that is, like Jim said, it's going to earn him more starts and impress the coaching staff with how well he played. And yes, getting goals, that is great. That's what strikers are supposed to do. That's what you guys say Mikel Uwe needs to do all the time. But it's important. Julian Carranza, big part of his game was, what do you do for us defensively? And that was such a big part of Julian's game. And that's what made him a complete striker. And so when Julian wasn't scoring goals, he's still putting in the effort defensively. And that goes a long way. And you heard Jim say there, Leon died on the field for us tonight. The center backs worked their asses off for us. And you do feel bad for this team. 3 times that they fight back. 3 times to tie this game up. And who knows, if Marcus Anderson doesn't turn the ball over. Who knows what could have happened? Does Quinn Sullivan get in with a chance? Potentially. But you never know. And, good teams find a way to win. And unfortunately, the Union aren't a great team this year. They're not a good team. They're an average team. In Cincinnati, they spend the money on good players. And you saw it in Acosta. He's a player that can take the game over by himself. And that's exactly what he did. But what about the Union conceding 5 minutes into the start of the second half? Once again, they did it one Saturday against Inter Miami. They've done it 3 times total where they've conceded within the first 5 minutes. The first time they did it, I believe it was Orlando City, I want to say. Morial sounds familiar as the player was to score right at the start of the half. And now they've done it in back-to-back games this season. I asked Jim Curtin after the game, you guys worked hard to tie the game up with Tai Baribo. You guys put in so much effort in the first half, just like you did against Miami. I would argue the Union were the better team in both halves. But then, the start of the second half, they concede a goal once again. So how deflating is that?
Yeah, it hurts because we do work very hard. The players never quit. They have a ton of heart, but maybe we need to work a little smarter, because even the PK, we have plenty of numbers there. I think we actually clear it off of ourselves, and it luckily goes for them into Kubo's stride. I still haven't seen it back. It doesn't seem like a ton of contact, but anytime in the box when you're trailing a player, they can make a call like that. So kind of from nothing, I thought we had it covered well and it was going to be cleared, and deflects and goes, like I said, for a breakaway for them. So it hurts. Again, painful. We need to do a better job at the start of second halves.
Yeah, and Jim was going to say at the end of the games too, because he's absolutely right. You give up a late goal to Alfonso in a game that looked like it was going to end in a draw. Now you just lost to 9 men into Miami. Insane. And now you give up a goal in the 100th minute. The Union, for whatever reason, they, for the most part, I would say, play a pretty good first half most of the times this season. But now it's become back-to-back games, like I said, where you're conceding within the first 5 minutes, or okay, maybe you're not conceding, but you're giving up chances right away. And for whatever reason, the Union just don't seem to be as locked in. Remember last episode, I asked Kai Wagner, was the team nervous when they didn't take the chances in the first half? And he said, yeah. And Jim Curtin's mentioned it multiple times that, the team's nervous at halftime. They're nervous at playing at Subaru Park. And so what is it? What is it for this team where they lack the confidence coming out of halftime? It's like, you guys just worked your tails off tying this game up. You're unfortunate to be behind. You get caught ball watching. All right, right before halftime, you score a goal. It's a well-worked goal. That should give you the motivation to come out on fire in the second half. But that's not what happened at all. And so, that's something that I'll be curious to the track, did the Union come out slow once again this Saturday against Charlotte? Is this going to be a trend? Yes, the Union concede first, it feels like in every single game, every other game. But we've seen it a lot this season. When they concede, they're finding the way to fight back. And it doesn't always result in draws, but they are finding those equalizing goals. And you thought they would come away with a point in Cincinnati, and it doesn't happen. So what about the lineup? The Union go with 5 in the back, 3 in the back, whatever you want to call it. Baribo, Glesnes, Elliott, Harriel, Wagner. It's not a formation that the Union go with a lot. Yes, we've seen it a couple times this season. Usually when the Union play it, they don't look great in it. So I asked Jim Curtin, was this just a situation where you're getting your best players on the field?
A little bit of who's available. Like we said, we're missing about 5 starters. So adapted and adjusted, and I thought the guys took the information and did a good job limiting a really good Cincinnati team. It's just a shame they don't get at least a point out of it to go back to Philly. But again, I'm going to stay positive with the group. I believe in these guys. I know we can get things turned around, but we just need to get that first, little impetus to get the ball rolling forward. And tonight we were close to getting that with almost a result in a hard place to play. And we just came up a little bit short in the end.
Yeah, maybe a little bit short. I mean, who knows? Who knows what could happen? I mean, and I hate to repeat what Jim Curtin says all the time, but it's fine margins. And I'm sure if you guys listen to the press conferences, he says that all the time, and it gets so annoying to hear to you guys, I'm sure. And I'm sure he's annoyed saying it, and I'm sure the players are tired of hearing fine margins all the time in Jim Curtin's talks, but it is true. I mean, it's a little giveaway. And it's not a formation issue. It's not that giveaway by Anderson. Okay, you want to say formation issue for Harriel giving up the goal to Kelsey? Okay. I mean, Nate's been fine when he's filled in as a center back, in my opinion. That's just a situation there where he checks out for a second or so, and it's a player taking advantage of that. And when you're caught backpedaling, like I said, mistakes are going to happen. We saw a similar play on the second half where it's Orsano playing the ball and Baribo gets caught ball watching, Glesnes gets caught ball watching, and Cincinnati should have probably scored in that situation. Instead, I forget the name of the player, headed the ball back towards the midfield, and it's like, dude, you just got in behind the defense. It's a beautiful ball played into you. All you got to do is take a touch or hit it first time, and you're probably putting this in the back of the net. And you saw the Cincinnati players. They were confused. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you make this fantastic run. And, yeah, I mean, the Union escaped there. But, yeah, I mean, the Union, for sure, are shorthanded, as are Cincinnati, as are a lot of teams in MLS. But it's no excuse. It's the next man up mentality. You got to take advantage of your opportunities. And some players did for the Union on the night. Some players didn't. But, the Union don't have many options. And I know some fans have said that they want to see the defense switched up, the center backs specifically switched up, but you don't really have the depth there. And Jim Curtin's sure as hell not going to put Macania ahead of Jacob Glesnes or Jack Elliott. There's no way that's going to happen. And, if you thought that, yeah, maybe Macania will get a start in a back 3. No, I mean, Nate Harriel's that third choice center back right now for the Union with Damian Lowe away with Jamaica. So I don't know. Maybe it happens on Saturday. I don't think so. But I mean, you got to do something to get a result, which leads me to the fourth clip and the final clip of the night. I don't know how often you guys, or if you guys watch CBS Golazo at all in the morning. Fantastic show. They cover all things soccer. Susanna Collins, Nico Cantor, Charlie Davies, and Alexis Guerrero were all talking during this segment. And Susanna asked, is the seat for Jim Curtin getting hotter with only 4 wins in 18 MLS games this season, 1 win in the last 12? And this is what the guys had to say on the show.
Jim Curtin, how warm is his seat at this point? I think the sporting director, Ernst Tanner, has, in my mind, has always been non-committal to Jim Curtin. It hasn't been like outwardly saying, this is our coach of the future. No matter what, we're backing him, even though Jim has done an incredible job, right? Incredible job.
We love Jim.
And he's very good at the balance of coaching youth, because he had the background before taking over the job, coaching youth and mixing it with experienced professionals and figuring out a good balance. So he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever work with, 100%. But I do think Ernst Tanner has a certain demand and expectation every season. And if this continues, that seat is going to be much warmer.
You know, he has a big summer. I think Jim Curtin, sorry to interrupt.
No.
Jim Curtin, I think, has earned the right to at least fulfill the rest of the season unless it gets really bad.
And I don't foresee it getting really bad.
There's a big summer coming up, and you know, you're losing a player. Like, give them that benefit of the doubt. It's bad. I think post MLS Cup final, post MLS Cup, this is the lowest that Philly has gotten.
Yeah.
You don't think sitting in the interrogation seat is more Ernst Tanner than Jim Curtin on why the results are the way they are? You don't think, to some degree, Jim Curtin has done enough with not a lot in the past, that he's proven that he's a really good coach that right now doesn't have a lot of pieces to work with? No?
Because then the same answer would say, well, you've done a lot with not a lot. Keep doing it, or we'll find someone else to do the same thing that you just did. Do a lot with.
Okay, I just feel like that's a difficult proposal for anyone.
Well, that's I think the reality of a lot of clubs in Major League Soccer.
I know, but I think the flip to that would be, if I've shown you I can do a lot MLS Cup finals with not much, give me something. And I think Jim Curtin would be right to ask for that. I don't know that, and that's why I said yesterday, I don't know if his heat's too hot. I feel like the spotlight should be shined on the front office, not Jim Curtin.
It's not too hot.
Yeah. But I'm saying I don't think it will
the spotlight on the front office. No way.
They only have 4 more points.
They just had a youth product be signed by Manchester City. You think there's any heat on the front office?
There should be. I mean,
not at all.
That's a 14-year-old. It's got nothing to do with the senior squad.
And they're selling a player to Europe.
And they sold Brendan Aronson.
And there's zero.
They've proven their ability to develop players.
I'll tell you right now,
necessarily alleviates all that pressure.
Zero heat on the front office. Zero.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, a lot to digest right there. And Charlie Davies saying, there's zero pressure on the front office. I agree with him 100%, because it's not a head coach issue. It's not a front office issue. It's an ownership issue for the fans. That's where fans have an issue with. And okay, what I will say is, and we've talked about it on the show, that the depth of the club isn't that great. And that ultimately does fall on Ernst Tanner for, not scouting the right players. But then Ernst Tanner would argue and say, no, I have a limited budget. There's only so much I can do. And yes, his last couple transfer windows haven't been great. And again, he would say, well, I can only do with what I have. And so I don't really think the blame should be directed too much at Ernst Tanner. Yes, you want his transfers to be better. You want these players that he's scouting to work out. And, that happens all over soccer. Players don't work out. They're in the wrong environment. They go to another club and then they succeed. It doesn't mean they're a bad player. It just means that it's a bad fit for them. And, a player that you think is going to fit your system, when they get here, they sometimes don't work out. And maybe the system's too difficult for them. And then you loan them out. You sell them. And I think part of that has been the issue with some of the signings for Ernst Tanner. And then some of the guys, they're just young players. And, not all players are going to be like Kai Wagner's or Kasper Schmeichel's. They're not all going to hit like that. But I do think it's fair to say, well, why did his transfers in 2019, 2020, and 2021, why did they hit better than in 2022 and 2023? It's a fair question to ask, 100%. But again, I just know what Ernst Tanner is going to say. He's going to say, yeah, it's a limited budget I have. But Ernst Tanner has got players sold. They mention it. Brendan Aronson, Mark McKenzie, Austin Trusty to an extent, trading him to Colorado, and Colorado eventually moved him to Arsenal, and then Arsenal sell him to Sheffield United. And you look at Paxton Aronson, got sold. And Kevin Sullivan will be one of those players getting sold too, with the deal agreed upon with Man City. And they bring up the example of, well, that's why the front office, they're fine, because they sell players and they sign Kevin Sullivan. But here's my thing, right? This is why Jim Curtin won't lose his job. He is the sole reason why the Union signed Kevin Sullivan. Kevin was just going to wait until he could go to Europe and play at one of Man City's other clubs. But if it wasn't for Jim Curtin stepping in, having that relationship with his grandfather, who he played for at Villanova, having that relationship with Brandon, the dad, that goes a long way. Those relationships that Jim Curtin built over years, that goes a long way. And for that alone, Jim Curtin's not going to lose his job. This is no conversation. It should be no topic. The Union secured their most sought after prospect, the best player to ever come out of their academy. It looked like for some time that Kevin wasn't going to stay in Philadelphia, and that was going to be a massive hit for this club. But Jim Curtin convinces Kevin that, hey, look, start your career in Philadelphia. This is what's best. And Man City agreed to it as well, and everybody walks away happy in the end. But Jim Curtin's also played a part in developing a Brendan Aronson, a Paxton Aronson, a Mark McKenzie, an Austin Trusty, and Anthony Fontana. Jim Curtin has helped these players. Julian Carranza, I would argue it was the wrong system in Miami. He comes to Philadelphia where it's a system that fits him well. 14 goals in back-to-back seasons in MLS play. Before he got sold to Feyenoord, he scored 6 goals, I want to say, so far this season in MLS. And you got to imagine, if he stays around for the whole season, he's probably going to break double digits once again. But Jim Curtin has played a huge role in developing these players, getting players to sign. And then there is, a legitimate reason when you look, Jim Curtin's dealt with a lot of player injuries this season. Andre Blake, Jacob Glesnes coming back from injury, Jack Elliott's been hurt this season, Damian Lowe's been hurt this season, Jose Martinez has been hurt this season, Alejandro Bedoya has been hurt. Kai Wagner has taken a couple knocks, but he's not missed any starts, I want to say. Or maybe 1 or 2, I can't remember. And Julian Carranza, like I said, has been injured this season. So there's been multiple key players for the Union that have been out this season. And Jim Curtin's trying to find a way to juggle that. And yeah, there are players on that bench that Jim obviously doesn't trust. If he does, we would have been seeing them playing a lot more than what they normally do. And, maybe there's some disconnect between the players that Jim Curtin thinks that this club needs and players that Ernst Tanner is going out and signing. And again, it goes to maybe the right player, but the wrong system. And, Jim sees these guys all the time in training. And, if they're not up to par with the training standards, then the coaching staff's not going to play these players. And so I don't think there should be any conversation around, is Jim Curtin's seat warm? Absolutely not. Is Ernst Tanner's seat warm? Absolutely not. I don't think anybody's seat's warm. As long as Jay Sugarman's making money, that's all he cares about. Ernst Tanner's selling players. They're making money. Players continue to come out of their academy, which they'll eventually make money off of those players. And as soon as the club's not profitable anymore, then, of course, Jay Sugarman's going to sell. But until then, you're developing players. Everybody has their job. So this is what happens. This is what happens when you only have 4 wins on the season in MLS play. you become a talking point pretty much every single day on main TV, in articles, on social media. So it's difficult times for the Union, and hopefully they can turn it around in this Saturday against Charlotte. But 3 stars real quick, we'll go over that. Tai Baribo, number 1, 2 goals, 6 touches in the 18-yard box, 2 out of 3 tackles won, 4 ball recoveries, 6 out of 9 ground duels won. Fantastic performance by Tai on the night. Don't think I'll get any disagreements on that. Kai Wagner, 2 assists, 5 chances created. Didn't really do much defensively, but offensively he was good. And then 3, Mikal Ua, 1 assist, 4 ball recoveries, 2 out of 2 ground duels won. And he also won 2 fouls for the Union. And then it's just his work off the ball, just making those runs and in the hold-up play. Stuff that doesn't really get looked at because it's not popping up on the stat sheet. But I thought Mikal did well in his first start with Tai Baribo. I thought there was a lot of positives between the two of them. But Union, unfortunately, couldn't get the win, couldn't come away with a point. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow @FreeKickPod, wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick. Check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/FreeKickPod, wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick, and the Substack, where you can watch the goals breakdown videos in full, thefreekick.substack.com. And hopefully I can get this video looking fine on YouTube. If not, go to Substack for the whole uninterrupted video. Until Sunday, my name is Todd, and this is The Free Kick Podcast.